Hi, welcome. Thank you for joining. My name is Dea, and this call is organized by the Contributor Experience Project. The purpose of this is to help open source projects welcome new contributors and improve their experience. We learned from Emily that scikit-learn is reaching out to Asia, and she's working on this. She's doing that for scikit-learn. And we are going to ask her how she's doing this. And Charlie is a core developer of scikit-learn, and we're gonna ask him how did he do that, because we all want to be core developers of scikit-learn. and then yes, so I would like you to introduce yourselves, please. Maybe we start with Emily.
Yeah, sure. Hi. Um, Sorry, there's a motorcycle outside the window. My name is Emily. I am from the University of Toronto. My background is in computer and electrical engineering. This past summer, I was working at probabl, which is the official operating brand of scikit-learn. And part of my job is to reach out to Asia, especially mainland China, to recruit more contributors and retain them. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Charlie?
Hi, my name is Charlie, and I'm from Shanghai, China, and I've got my bachelor's degree in honors mathematics and computer science at New York University, and I'm now pursuing a master's degree at Harvard Engineering School. So yeah, and I'm currently a core developer of scikit-learn since a few months ago. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, and thank you very much for joining us. And first, Charlie, I read from your website you have graduated. It's honors mathematics, or you had an honor mention.
It's honors mathematics. There are like two different majors. One is mathematics and one is honors mathematics.
And what is the difference?
Um, the difference is like there is much less requirements for the math major at New York University. So honors math is like we need the high level classes and more in theory. And I think the mathematics without the honors title is more like applied math.
Okay, thank you. And Emily, I would like to know, how did you end up doing what you're doing? I know you went to a very cool conference. You talked about scikit-learn. Could you tell us how you end up doing that?
Yeah, sure. So how I end up at probabl is because I went to another conference where I met some of probabl's co-founders' colleagues, and they really liked my mixed set of skills, that being multilingual and having a tech background and have used scikit-learn previously. So they wanted me to work for probabl for the summer to basically not only contribute to open source, but also doing this outreach thing, which I've done towards mainland China. And because I went to that initial conference where I met probabl founder's colleague, I know that's going to happen again the year after. And I thought it would be a great opportunity to leverage and basically make the world know about scikit-learn in China as well. So I decided to participate in that. They were very supportive of it, and I was able to basically go around, connect with people, and tell people about scikit-learn. And we still have like ongoing collaborations and plans for the future.
Did you find yourself about this conference, or did they send you? How did you manage to do that?
I knew about the conference. Like, I just know that this conference is a thing and it's a recurring thing, and it happens in China about once a year. So when I went to that, like before I joined probabl, I knew it was going to happen again the year after. So I thought if I could leverage the opportunity for probabl and scikit-learn, that would be good.
It's very nice to be an insider. It's like that's the bicultural advantage. Um, did you present scikit-learn or did you run a sprint or how? Well, more details maybe you can share with us.
Yeah, sure. So I wasn't presenting a talk or anything. It's scikit-learn wasn't a sponsor just because the timeline didn't work out as I joined probabl after the call for proposal closed. But I knew that it was going to be a thing, and I think just being present at those conferences and telling people that, hey, we are having an official Chinese presence is helpful. And what I did is I wore a lot of like scikit-learn merch. So when people see like scikit-learn, like I'm basically a walking advertisement brand, and they see scikit-learn and they're like, oh, look, scikit-learn's here. And then they're more open to approach me to talk about scikit-learn. And of course, I go around during booth and solution booth and talk to people about, hey, your project looks cool. Let's talk about your project. Then they see my scikit-learn shirt and they say, okay, your project looks cool. Either they know about scikit-learn, they use scikit-learn, or they're like, I have never seen this before. Tell me about it. So all three routes are very helpful in getting the brand out there, and I found that really interesting as well.
Well, that sounds very interesting. I think you had a line of people wanting to talk to you.
Maybe actually, Shirem, I met Shirem in this call at that conference, so I guess it
Oh,
worked out.
oh, nice.
Yeah.
And tell us, Charlie, you started contributing to scikit-learn when you were in China, when you were studying in China still?
I started contributing when I was in New York, I think. I was in
Ah,
New York
okay.
for 1 year. I think it's 2023, and in that year I started contributing.
But did you know about scikit-learn when you were in China or not at all?
Yeah, of course, because if you do a machine learning course, then you'll know
Yeah,
about scikit-learn.
that was what I wanted to know, if you knew about scikit-learn over there, or if if there is a competitor or something. But no, that's very nice.
It's like if you talk about machine learning in China, we the traditional machine learning thing, it's always scikit-learn. If you extend to deep learning or
Mhm.
the AI frameworks, then that would be PyTorch, TensorFlow, things like that. I'm not that of a machine learning person, so I might have heard of scikit-learn a bit later, but still, yeah, in China we do heard about scikit-learn thing.
Okay. And Emily, you said there is no LinkedIn in China. But I can't remember, did you say GitHub is no problem? People can participate on GitHub from China?
I think Charlie has a better answer because he actually lived in China a lot longer than I did. But from my experience, LinkedIn is off by the firewall, but if you can have access to a VPN, then firewall is no longer a thing. Though I think GitHub is not blocked, it just intermittently times out for me. But from the times I tried, maybe 1 out of like 10 times it times out, 9 times it's just slightly slow. I'm not sure. What about your experience, Charlie?
Yeah, GitHub is not blocked, but yeah, it's most of the times extremely slow. So like a push may fail randomly, or which could be annoying, but I think I'm not sure if I can say that, but most of the high school students, no, sorry, college students in China that major in computer science or related stuff, data science, they have VPN, so I think they do have some way to access those resources, though they might not be so familiar with those things. So because like teachers will not teach that in class, and yeah, you need VPN to access those resources. So clearly, not everyone does that way. Yeah.
If any of the other people, everybody who has joined, have any questions, feel free to jump in. But hey,
Yeah.
and Emily, when you talk to people about scikit-learn and you exchange, it's more like what do you tell them? You tell them, hey, we need contributors. What's the conversation?
I think I usually start with getting to know the other person first, because if they have no idea what scikit-learn is, it wouldn't be helpful to talk about very advanced data science stuff, because scikit-learn is more, as Charlie said, traditional machine learning and data science, and it works really well with like data frames and a lot of numbers. So depends on their expert levels. But I also tend to use my experience using scikit-learn because I started off with scikit-learn as an end user for a biomedical research project. And I kind of tell them about my project, and then they can ask me questions and say basically their experience as well.
There is a question.
That was just me. I was just
Yeah.
saying. I do have a question, dear, if that's okay.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I'm curious, just, when you're starting out, both Charlie and Emily, what were your early contributions to scikit-learn? What did that involve?
I actually there was a course called Open Source Software Development at New York University, where our final project would be to make some contributions to some open source project, and I chose scikit-learn for that. My first contributions, well, I think I made about 30 successful PRs during that course. That was a meta issue, so it was something easy and a repeated process, so I can make that many of it. It was about I think May or March 2023, there was an issue about the parameter validation thing in scikit-learn. So essentially, it's like a decorator on the public functions and classes that you need to put some constraints into it, and it will automatically add validations to the input arguments or parameters on the functions or classes. So that's a thing like that. And it's not really complicated, but it somehow helps people navigate through the code base. Really nice issue to start with then.
That's great. That's impressive. 36 pull requests. That's great. Emily, what was your first contribution?
Mine was on the array API issue, and I think array API is either you're really familiar about it or you're not. So for those that are not familiar about, it's basically a standard for all sort of array data frame libraries to confine to, so that you can easily have cross-library functions and communication. And additionally, being able to use like multiple libraries with that one set of data set without rearranging the data so that it fits all library. You can also train on GPU depending on your namespace. So for example, if you have like a data set or on, let's say, NumPy namespace, which only allows training on CPU, but if you convert it to a different namespace, then that allows GPU like training, then you can basically process on GPU, and that speeds it up a lot faster. And the reason why I worked on that was because basically my mentor at probabl, who is also a scikit-learn core dev, told me to work on it, and he walked me through my first issue, which was super nice, and I just kept going with that after that. So for me, it was my mentor who helped me, and I was able to navigate after that. I do have a question for Charlie, though, if that's okay.
What?
No, I have a question for you. Because
Sure.
for your course, right? What made you pick scikit-learn to contribute to over like the bajillion projects that exists?
Well, we talked about some principles in choosing open source projects to contribute to, because we only have one semester, so you definitely need to choose active projects which do not have a lot of stale issues and pull requests, and kind of we were in a group of 3, so the other 2 of my teammates, they were the only programming language they know was Python, so we chose from the Python libraries. And yes, somehow we picked scikit-learn instead of the others in the scientific Python ecosystem, because I can remember clearly, I think we have a machine learning person on the group, so we finally decided to choose scikit-learn. I actually tried contributing to pandas as well. That's also a very welcoming community, but it's kind of a bit harder because you have more low-level thing there. Scikit-learn may be somehow a little bit of easier to start with. Yeah, that's the reason.
Thank you.
I would like to add something. I confess that I wanted to keep contributing to scikit-learn, but I spent so much time going through the issues and not finding the one I could contribute. It goes like this. I pick a topic that sounds very interesting. It seems like they need help. They even have the label help
Needs help.
needed. Yes, wanted.
Help wanted.
Yes, thank you. And then I see the conversation and try to imagine, and I go here, and at the end, it seems that they did not agree on how to continue, and it stopped there. There are 565 open pull requests in scikit-learn right now.
Yeah.
That are open and waiting to be reviewed, or they were started and they didn't know. At the end, you see it, and you can tell that the conversation didn't finish, and it's just there. It's not a criticism. I love scikit-learn. It's of course the very good project. But how do you do that? How with the sprint? Yes, you find the meta issue. I went to a sprint as well. I contributed a couple of pull requests, and then later I was like to find another one, and that's it. What can you advise someone who wants to contribute to scikit-learn?
I mean, yes, what you said was an issue about scikit-learn, because I think scikit-learn does not have that much reviewing power, so the review process is in most cases a bit of slow. There are people who are patient enough to wait for that, and we're very thankful to them, but in some cases, yes, pull requests become stale, and you sometimes need to notify whoever commented on the related issue to maybe pin them, and yes, that's tricky. Some contributors likes to be pinned, some dislikes being pinned, so that's also a tricky thing. Maybe scikit-learn needs more reviewing power, but that's not what I can control. And about how I continued my contributions, I would say that well, after I finished the very initial parameter validation thing that I was doing, I think I made about 30 PRs, and that I was indeed kind of looking for those labeled with good first issues or help wanted, but yeah, as you said, most of them are either already taken or they are not taken because there's not yet a decision made. Most people are not lucky enough to see a help wanted issue that does not belong to these 2 categories. So in some cases, Another label you can look for is the meta issues, because for meta issues, you always have examples that you can refer to. And yes, each meta issue would have some core developer that's in charge. So that person's who you can ping for review, and those are nice ones. And another thing is actually looking at stale pull requests. So as you said, there are a lot of stale pull requests, and some of them can be picked up. You just need to confirm that nobody is that people are no longer working on that, and you can somehow take over, reopen a new pull request in that domain. And since there are stale pull requests, there's already something in it. There's already some discussion in it. Somehow they are stale because people either did not resolve the conversations, so that in your new PR you can resolve that conversations and pin the reviewers of that originally stale pull request. And yeah, that also worked out. And yes, I think if you carefully search through the issues, there will be something that you can do. Actually, for me, I think in the very beginning, I look through the issue list several times every day to try to find something that I can work with. So at the first scan through the issues, I might find nothing interesting, and in the second scan through the issues, I may lower my expectations, and then I may find something that I want to work with. I think one needs some passion to
Or persistence,
do
Charlie,
this kind of
persistence.
thing.
I'm actually, it's really curious. It sounds like there are a couple of things as you were talking. First thing is who makes the decision to commit, yeah, to make the decision, right? And if, and is there a way, I mean, it sounds like, is there a way of knowing what the priorities are? So if we've got
Knowing what?
565 pull requests, are they not prioritized at all in any way, shape, or form?
Uh, wait, I'm sorry. What do you mean for the pull requests?
So, like, what I mean is that when people are working on an issue and they submit a pull request, or when they're working on an issue, is there a way of seeing how important that issue is to the overall project, so that people understand how to prioritize what they work on? And is there also, I mean, if you're thinking about that around prioritization, but there's also just for new contributors, understanding what's a simple, sort of, I would say, like, new to scikit-learn, sort of a learning, a learning-based, a learning issue, one that you're saying, like, these are issues that are great for people who are starting out. This is an issue that's, more appropriate for someone who's much more experienced. And this definitely needs expert help. So you've got those three categories, and then you also then have a prioritization in terms of, well, this issue is really important to the project overall. And so you've got a kind of a ranks, some kind of categorization.
There is, like, I think we don't currently have label for importance, so we may want to have that, but that's not for now. And like, there are labels like easy, moderate, and hard. And moderate and hard are clearly means that new contributors won't want to look at that. Easy stuff are good things to start with, and there's the good first issue label. But as I mentioned, you may not be lucky enough to take such an issue because there's really not much of that. So I still do think the best thing to go with is meta issues because there are so many small PRs you can make towards that single meta issue. So yeah, you don't need too much luck to get started to contribute to those kind of things. And I do think there was a discussions about making a bot to add labels to pull requests or issues to try to tell contributors whether their pull request or how long their pull request will get reviewed. It's like a it's somehow like a multi-level feedback queue. Like if your pull request gets stale for too long, then its priority will be will go up one level. We talked about such things, but finally we thought that if someone's pull request is marked as low priority, then that will annoy people, so we gave up with that.
Yeah, true, true. I was thinking not so much that the pull requests themselves are prioritized, but more that the issue is prioritized.
If I
But-
may, I would like to add to this conversation. I've contributed to scikit-learn, but very light and on very on the matters related directly to the work that I do. So I didn't run into this challenges like what do I work on? I want to contribute to scikit-learn. Where do I start? I must say, Charlie, what you shared about the issues is resonating with many contributors to mature projects. And you're asking excellent questions about how do you prioritize? Is there a way to prioritize? The truth of the matter is the project works and everything else, like most of the issues are what we call maintenance.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to prioritize for the team, especially if the bandwidth is very limited. And what I observed in other projects is that usually if you see some energy behind a pull request that is targeting a certain issue, then again, given that core developers have some availability, they will try to support the person with the pull request. But generally, it is something that requires focus and some project management skills. And there are some ways to tackle this big issue. Like one of them is if you can categorize this large volume of issues into some buckets and then maybe write the grant proposal and get funded this part of the bucket, one of the buckets. And that's one way to approach to reduce the number of issues in the issue tracker. But generally, this is very common. And I remember looking at these foundational libraries in the scientific Python ecosystem and seeing all these issues coming from industry. I thought, how does this project even work? Like with so many issues. And it took some time for me to develop this understanding that it does work and these issues are not critical for the majority of the users.
Yeah, I guess given the focus of this conversation is about also building community. And so I'm wondering, as a person who is a first-time contributor, unless you have a huge, either time or there is a driver that, you're super curious and you're persistent like Charlie and Emily to find the right issues to work on, it still sounds like a bit of a looking for a needle in a haystack. And for some new contributors, it might put people off, because if you don't get it straight away or it's difficult to navigate, then it's harder to maintain your level of engagement. I mean, Emily, what are your thoughts on that?
Sorry, I think Dia had a question. My thought is I absolutely agree. I think it's very hard to start without any help, and scikit-learn is not the only library I try to contribute to, but it is the only one where I had a mentor, and that's why I was able to contribute a lot more versus other projects I am interested in, but lacks that mentor. And I remember recently, actually, my mentor went to a conference and someone approached him with an interesting question, was like, I want to contribute to scikit-learn, can we do something? And he walked that person, new contributor, through, and they were able to merge their first pull request. So I think it just having someone guide you is critical to start, unless you're extremely persistent, extremely skillful, which is difficult in reality because core devs and mentors are often very busy sorting other issues. For example, like that 565 issues. That's important, kind of, but still stale. Yeah. I think Dia at one point had a question.
Yeah, yes, actually, there is a question in the chat. How long did it take you to understand the scikit-learn code base? Who wants to answer that?
I haven't thoroughly understood the scikit-learn
Me
code base
neither.
yet. I don't think you need to understand the whole scikit-learn code base to be able to contribute to the project. You just need to be familiar with a particular part of it. Like if you know there's an issue about a specific class, then you just navigate through that part of the thing. So let's say, for instance, there was an issue about the random forest or something, a regressor in there, then you may just look through that framework about the tree models thing. You may not look at the whole code base. You may also want to look at the metrics thing because that's related to a lot of models, but yes, I only navigate through the code base when I need to do something about that. And the rest of the code base I don't really care about yet. So that's also because I'm not yet so experienced as a core developer. I think most other core developers, they're more familiar with the whole code base. Not for me yet.
You know, when I went to one of the sprint scikit-learn sprint, there was a meta issue, and I was very lucky to see it when it was just posted. But then there were so many contributors, and you had to go and find which class still needed the additional documentation, I think.
Oh,
And then by the time I went and read the classes and then found the documentation, it was taken. What I just want to say that is not that I wanted instant gratification or instant finding the information immediately. It's really, really, you have to be very patient. So I really admire you too for doing it and keeping at it. Is there anything that you want to work on a different subject? Would you like to focus on a different subject inside scikit-learn? Both of you.
a different subject.
Yeah, scikit-learn has many different classes or things to improve. Would you like a particular area, not subject, I used the wrong word. Would you like to focus on a different area than what you're doing right now, or just continue with what you're doing?
I'm currently mainly doing the documentation part actually. Yes, I do work on other parts, but the thing is like I led the navigation to the migration to the new website theme, so somehow now I'm the person in charge of that.
Thanks.
And yes, I think I am one of the few persons who know the front end stuff in the core dev team. So that's why I'm working on that. I think I do need to continue to work on that because yes, as I mentioned, scikit-learn does not have a lot of front end person. I'm not a front end person. I just know something about that. That's why I'm there. But yes, I definitely would do many other stuff in other areas. For instance, I have quite a few open pull requests right now. They were about different places in the code base. I do not focus really on a specific part like some other people do. Like as I mentioned before, I just look through the issues, find something that I can solve and I'm interested in, and I take it. I may want to touch the array API thing as well. I have never touched it yet, but that seems interesting, so I may do something in that regard as well. Does that answer it?
Yes, yes. Emily can help you with that, right, Emily?
Yeah, vice versa. Actually, for me, I mean, I was at Array API because I started on Array API, and actually another person who's also a open source contributor to scikit-learn like started after me, and I pretty much walked through her first issue as well. It was really cool. I would love to take anyone on to help Array API. There's a lot of people working on it already, actually. But for me, I do want to know about docs because as I mentioned earlier, I do a lot of the outreach stuff and pretty much recruiting new contributors. And I think docs is crucial for new contributors because to set up the environment to get started, to have examples is crucial. And that all come from docs because that's basically their only source of information unless they find the time to attend open community calls, which happens, first of all, once a month and is not aligned with the entire world's time zone. So if they're on the opposite time zone, I don't think they would be willing to get up at 3 a.m. to attend a 30-minute meeting. So
No, I don't think so. And the community calls, they have one that it's just for like a working, like people who work with scikit-learn, like I imagine core developers. And then there is another one for the community, I think. There are two types of meetings, no?
I think the monthly meeting is public, but most cases only core devs are there. So
Anyway, yeah. That's I think it will be a good thing to spy. I mean, not to spy, to listen, to try to see. For me, it will be interesting to know where the efforts are. What are the main areas where the project wants to grow. And is there something that you want scikit-learn to be better at? Any of you two can, both of you actually.
I think Emily may know better in this
what I
regard.
want scikit-learn to be better at.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's hard, but still.
I mean, we've discussed a lot of things already, right? Like onboarding new contributors and stuff, and I do notice that's quite a big challenge. Speaking of that, though, I do remember while I was at the conference in China a few months ago, someone discussed pain points of recruiting Chinese contributors to open source international projects. And there's like basically three main points, one being that setup thing. And I think setting things up is always like, I heard a lot of people say that it's the hardest part of doing a project because getting it set up, it's an effort. And despite the many efforts of getting better documentation, there's always something that goes wrong. And two is just that time zone thing. Like most things happen in Europe and North America, and China is not in very far from those time zones. So I think being accommodating at time zones, like having alternate time meeting slots so that they don't have to get up at 3 a.m. and attend a meeting, it would be very helpful. And having more mentors as well. And additionally, that language barrier. So having more mentors that can speak more languages or have the ability of communicating with Chinese contributors or non-English speaking contributors would be good. So I think that's some effort that scikit-learn is actually working towards. That's why I'm here. But yeah.
Are they planning on translating the website? At all?
There's discussion actually. I'm pretty sure there exists some documentation somewhere. It's just not official.
There,
Well,
there is an issue, as I think I mentioned previously. There is an issue. I think the scientific Python community, there was someone who reached out to scikit-learn to say that we are supporting the scientific Python community to do some translations. I think NumPy and Pandas did that for some part of their website, except the API reference part, which was nice. We had some discussion, but I think that was quite a few time ago. There were no more discussions recently. There is a Chinese version of websites that's maintained by that's translated by someone else clearly in China, but yeah, that's clearly not up to date because the scikit-learn website really updates very frequently.
Yeah, they're about a year or something behind, and
oh,
yeah, but they're not official. They're owned by some extreme third party. They just kind of took it and decided to do that, which is nice, a gesture, but it's not maintained. So
yeah, I think I saw a post on LinkedIn that non-focus was searching for people to translate, but I didn't. I think there is even a grant in ESA. You might know about it.
Yes, I know quite a bit about the efforts of translating websites for starters in the scientific Python community. My colleague Melissa Mendonça is working on it. We both are active contributors to NumPy, and yes, I strongly encourage you to revisit this conversation with Melissa. I'm happy to share her contact information. Also, if you're on the Scientific Python Discord, there's a channel called Translations where they discuss this topic. I have a question, related question. One of my recent and ongoing contributions to scikit-learn is user survey, and we made an effort to translate the survey into 6 languages besides English, and Mandarin was one of them. And Emily, thank you so much for helping us to translate it, and Charlie for your comments. I did look at the count of responses per language, and I noticed that English has close to 450 now, and Mandarin to date has only 4 responses. And we have this distribution pretty much across every language. French stood out. We had quite a lot of responses, under 50, but still compared to other language versions, a lot more. And I remember my work on the user survey for NumPy, which was the first one back in 2020. And we made an effort to translate the user survey into 2 widely spoken languages in India and in the world, Bangla and Hindu. And we had no responses. And that's how I learned that in tertiary institutions, especially in advanced technical field, the subjects are taught in English, and there was no need for the students to use the language that they widely speak at home and like outside of the academic institutions. So my question for you is it true, the same true for people in China, for students in China? Like, do you use English or do you rely on Mandarin in academic setting? How valuable these translations are?
So one thing is that the scikit-learn survey, it was a Google form.
Correct.
Google is blocked in China. And those who have VPNs, most of them, they speak English. So and many of them may not just connect the VPN, do something because they want to fill in a survey. So that might be the reason why there are very few responses in Mandarin Chinese. The thing is, for most institutes in China, at least the teaching stuff is mostly done in Chinese, of course. If you do research, then you definitely need to know English to some extent because the research papers are in English. But yes, people may still be more familiar with Chinese terms. So computer science is somehow different than other subjects because if you do programming, that's in English, right? But not everyone extends beyond that. So I think in those better institutions, they know English better. But still, that's the small amount of people on the top of the pyramid. And many more people, they don't know English well. So if you look at the GitHub, there were Chinese people asking in Chinese, or you can see their automatic translations there. So some of them still are not so familiar with the English stuff, like they need to somehow use Google Translate to translate their questions into English. And when someone responds, they need to translate back to Chinese. So somehow I think a Mandarin Chinese survey is still helpful, but the thing here is, first, it's Google Doc. Second, many Chinese people, I think, I can't speak for them, but they don't like to do surveys. I'm not sure why. And the third reason is that I do think like maybe it's because of the Chinese style education, or it's about the ecosystem in China, but many people don't go to the official website to check for reference. They go to somehow a discussion similar to Stack Overflow, maybe the Chinese version of Stack Overflow. They go there instead of to the official documentation. There is a banner on top of the documentation website of scikit-learn saying there is a survey, but many people may not see that because they don't visit that website, and that can't be helped. So it's kind of tricky.
Thank you. This is helpful, and I definitely helped me to understand better the system. And it sounds like it's still worth the effort to translate documentation into Mandarin.
Yeah, to add on to that, from what I noticed is, yes, basically all the technical terms are and could be understood in English because we do programming and those names are kind of hard to translate. But in putting those into context and saying, asking a question or answering a question or having a discussion about those things, usually it's easier to have those conversations in Chinese, except when those terms come up, we just use the English term.
Yeah. For people like us, like when we speak with Chinese people, we're like mixing Chinese and English. So for those terms, technical terms and sometimes like presentation or demo or things like that, many cases we can't find suitable Chinese terms for those words, and we'll mix English and Chinese together. But the thing is, yes, so for for conversation, especially those casual ones, it would be better in native, in the mother tongues. It would be much easier. So because the speaking style and grammar of English and Chinese are very different. So even if you know what every word means, if you put it in a sentence, it could be difficult for many people in China.
Thank you for sharing.
It really sounds like Spanish and English, or French and English software terms are never translated, and it's a mix always. And we only have 5 minutes left. Sriram, am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yep, that is perfect.
Okay, do you have any question?
Not really, but thanks a lot for organizing this. I learned a lot of new things today.
Thank you for joining. Okay, anything you want to add? Something I missed? I'm sure I missed something, but
I may want to add a small suggestion. I forgot to speak about that for contributors. So so now I am a core developer, so I also do the reviewing stuff. The thing is, people who want to contribute should carefully read through the contributing guidelines. Because if I click into an issue, I see the continuous integration texts all breaking, the formatting and the linting are not passing, and so many messy things in there. I'll pass it. So maybe when I have in certain cases, when I have a lot of patience, I'll try to guide them through the thing, but when I don't, I'll just pass through it. So one thing is read carefully at the contribution guidelines. The second thing is to make the CI pass, so that there is a much higher chance that that reviewers or core developers will look at your pull request if the CI is green. If that's red, they may skip it. So that's a critical thing about making PRs, I think.
thank you. Thank you for sharing. Emily, anything that we missed?
Not that I can think of. And that perspective that Charlie just said is really helpful, because I would like to know what reviewers think.
That's true. I do have an open pull request. It's a documentation. I confess I did all this because of this one pull request. No, I'm just joking, but yeah, I'll ping you then.
I have a final question for Charlie and Emily. Where will new contributors find information about community events hosted by scikit-learn?
I think there's a calendar on the official website. I'm not too sure.
No, I'm
Yeah.
not sure either. I most of my involvement with scikit-learn is still on GitHub, so I'm only familiar with those information. I never know when sprints will happen. I've never attended some of them. I don't know about them really.
I think I can do that. There is a calendar. Yeah, I'll share it. I don't know if someone, I'll share the link in the YouTube video. When we share the video, I'll share a couple of links, and hopefully we'll have more contributors to scikit-learn. Okay, well, thank you so much, Charlie and Emily, for joining and sharing what you know. Everybody else, thank you so much for joining. I hope to see you soon. It was very, very nice for me, at least. Thank you.
It's very informative. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. I had fun on this call.
Thank you very much.
Great conversation,
Thank
everyone.
you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.